Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Moyes, solution consultant with ServiceNow. And I will start an overview of the ServiceNow platform and how it's well suited to handle any type of request beyond IT. And I'm joined with my colleague, Angelo.
Hi, welcome, everybody.
Angelo?
Hello, I'm coming through okay?
Yeah.
Oh, hey. Hi, yeah, it's Angelo Nappi, a solution consultant with ServiceNow. Been here for about 5-6 years now, primarily supporting Department of Energy, power authorities, and we'll be working with Mark today to show you an application that we built for one of my customers.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to get started on taking an overview of the ServiceNow platform and how it can handle really any type of request beyond relay state or any type of request beyond IT. Because not many people know, but the ServiceNow platform is well known, even though it's well known as the leader in the IT service management space, right? Our founder, Fred Luddy, originally created ServiceNow as a cloud-based platform to really allow anyone to make the work better inside their enterprise. And not just targeting developers, but really trying to make a platform that's easy to use for regular people. And he did that when he saw people struggle with really tedious and menial work. And he really made it a goal for himself to engineer a platform that would be easy to use and allow people to remove the clutter in the day-to-day life. So when he went to see investors with his idea and a prototype of his platform, they asked him, what it can do. And when he said that it can do anything, they asked him to really come back with something that provided a more tangible value and come back when it was done. So based on his background, he started to build the IT service management application using the ServiceNow platform. So ITSM really became the first application built on the .NET platform and the App Engine solution. And so Fred's vision to allow companies to innovate was recognized by Forbes in 2018 when they found ServiceNow to be the most innovative company in the world. And his vision was even further recognized in 2020 last year when Gartner named ServiceNow a leader in the Magic Quadrant for enterprise low-code application platforms. And if you look at the Magic Quadrant, Gartner even placed ServiceNow higher on the visionary axis ahead of Salesforce and Microsoft. And we're going to see throughout this demonstration, and at the end, we even released a newer version of the App Engine solution that we're going to present next week. So what really makes this possible and what really makes this seen as an innovative solution? When other vendors looks at providing maybe low-code solutions or enterprise class applications, as they call it, they really think in terms of silos and focusing only a couple of solutions. With Fred's vision, the ability to build any type of application, there was a need that was recognized that we know inside any agency that there is unstructured work that's happening all over the place. It's not just going through a workflow and doing my work. No, it's about collaborating with others. It's about sending that spreadsheet or replying to that email, and then waiting. And so, and also often recopying data, copying and pasting from one system to the next. And so at the core of the platform, which is a unified platform with a single data model on a cloud-based platform, what you have at the core is the ability to define workflows, artificial intelligence to look at the data, what's going on in my process, the ability to create amazing user experience, the ability to reuse data and workflows across the organization. And then at the bottom, the ability to communicate with other applications. When other people think about protecting their applications and making sure enforcing customers and agencies to actually work only inside the application, we actually friend with everybody in the ecosystem because we know that work crosses boundaries inside agencies. So we have, as part of our integration hub, which is very unique with more than hundreds of connectors to third-party systems, we can integrate with anything almost that you have in your organization. And we also have partners that build integrations and applications on top of the ServiceNow platform. So it's not a niche application that is focused only on IT. It's really focused on any type of work that is flowing through the agency. So on top of the platform, we have the IT workflows, the employee workflows, and customer workflows that are built on that same platform. And then we have the creator workflows that Angelo used to build that specific request for his customer, and that many customers use to build custom applications on the ServiceNow platform. And all of those capabilities allow us to build amazing experience. So once you have built those custom workflows and applications, you want to expose them and in a way that's going to be really compelling for users. It's not about replacing work for the sake of changing one software from one software to another. Right? It's about introducing change. And we know that everybody talks about digital transformation, and there are different degrees of transformation. First, you want to make it that people want to work in your system, right? And so making it work for your employees and your customers, it's providing an amazing experience. And we have an amazing team here at ServiceNow that can help us work with user-focused design to make sure that the application is going to be used on a daily basis. I can't count the number of times that I have discussions with agencies where users are really going around the applications that the agency spent millions and millions of dollars building and somehow calling that digital transformation when people are still using emails, right? So what we want to do is really transform those business workflows and allow to build an amazing experience using the ServiceNow platform. And the way that we do that is pretty unique, is when others have, multiple languages and technologies that you need to learn. Inside the ServiceNow platform, there is just one language for the pro developers if they need to really build something that touches complexity and that needs to handle that complexity. And in the same platform, we have the ability to engage and have every stakeholder in the transformation to collaborate on the platform. So there are different levels of skill sets that are able to work inside ServiceNow, from the IT developer to the line of business developer who's more of an SME in the application and in the workflow, to really the business analyst, or even we have CIOs making changes in the applications as well. And all of that is done through the low-code configuration capabilities of the platform, allowing us to really pick and choose who can do what and making sure that they can collaborate. It's not just IT is building it, business provides feedback. It's making sure that everybody works together to build an application as fast as possible. And one of the proof of that is the city of Los Angeles at the start of the pandemic really needed to take action to get people tested and making sure that they had all this, I think 16 million citizens to be able to be tested and be able to schedule the drive-through testing and all the scheduling for 60 millions of people. And they needed to do this very quickly. And this is just one example of customers who've done that. And we talk about partners initially. The city of Los Angeles ServiceNow also partnered with Cask to build an application in 48 hours, from the design of the user interface with the requirements, with the workflow, 48 hours. And it was able to deploy this 12 hours of design, 36 hours to build and launch the app, to really impact citizens immediately. So when you think in terms of mission critical applications using ServiceNow beyond IT, that's really one of the key examples to follow, how we can do that, how we can help you do this inside your agency. And so when you look at the different workflows and customers, we actually want a survey to see what are customers doing with ServiceNow. And because our heritage is with ITSM, of course, we have 52% of customers building apps for IT. But there is a tremendous increase in spread of applications across the organizations, from legal, from investigations to talent management, to HR, to customer service. All of those applications, customers are using ServiceNow. So Angelo is going to talk to you now about how do we really get started transforming a real estate request that he's using for this example. But what he's going to talk about is really a methodology to help you think differently in terms of how you improve your workflow. So Angelo, you want to take it over?
I sure do. Mark, can I go ahead and grab the share from you?
Yes, you can.
Not want to give me the share icon yet. There we go.
There you go.
Now it does. All right. So share, and we will pick up where we left off. Thank you for that great intro, Mark, and for going through the App Engine and the platform ability to create some apps. So do want to let everybody know that that chat should be open. Want you to be able to ask questions, and Mark will be keeping an eye on things as they come in. But now we're going to go ahead and get into the actual use case that I worked on and show you how we thought about coming up with the solution, approach the project, and then into how we started working on building it and presenting it to end users and fulfillers, to how the work would be brought in and managed. So a few slides to walk through the process, and then we'll dive into the application in a little bit. Get PowerPoint working here. So the first question you want to think about is how do I take the requests in today? Is there enough of a volume that I want to go ahead and work on the initiative, the time that it'll take, and the effort that it'll take to start working on it, developing it, introducing a new process to users? If it is something that is done frequently and it has a process that is not the smoothest or the easiest in the world for your users to get on and start using, then obviously that's a place we want to start with to think, how can I start reimagining interacting with my user base and allowing them to have a better experience when they're dealing with getting a service from me? And we like to think of it as a service. If you are trying to offer someone to someone else, and you need a way for them to ask it from you, then that's a perfect opportunity to start thinking about how can ServiceNow help me help the end users get the items or the services that they're asking for. So in this particular case, this is just portion of the actual form that was provided to us. As you can see, not exactly the easiest experience, and this is just maybe like a third of the process to get through making this particular real estate request, because it was a rather intensive experience. It covers a lot of different use cases and scenarios in a single request process. Um, so we start thinking about the methods. Am I dealing with paper forms still? Or did someone write something on SharePoint really fast and it's not integrated with any other system? So after either the form is intaked by paper or it comes into SharePoint, does it then get put into an email or get put into a spreadsheet in order for it to route around the different people that it takes to satisfy that user's request? Are there multiple forms required? If I'm jumping from one form to another, how am I getting that consistency of view uh, of passing information from one location to the other or one approver to the other, and making sure that there is a line of sight from beginning to end? Do I need to audit the information? Is my auditing process taking a carbon copy still from the old days? I'm old enough to where we had routing folders, where we had to sign off the outside of a folder as the work went and moved around. I used to be a civil servant in the Navy, and that was how we routed work. Was you'd stick a paper form into a folder with a routing sheet on it, you'd pass it around, and that was our audit trail. So do you still need the ability to know who looked at an item and when, in case there's a customer stat issue? And you're like, well, why is this taking too long to do? You need to see who is touching it at what point in time. And how complex is the request process? Is this something to where users are making calls to my support center because they can't figure out how to do the form in the first place? That is something that we do see when we talk to some of our customers on the use cases of things that they would like to modernize, is that they have a workload put upon them just from the process of trying to fill out the forms. So after we reviewed the different ways we need to collect the data, or we've been collecting data in the past, we need to decide how is that data handled once it's brought in. And this is where I've seen a broad range of capabilities with our customers on a maturity scale. In this case, they provided a very nice workflow that defined explicitly what happened with that process. But when I looked at their very nice diagram, like, well, there seems to be a lot of emailing as part of this process. So when a requester first submits, those forms come in. Well, how does he know that it's actually made it to a reviewer or an approver? Or how does one approver know that it's been rejected as it gets passed along? Where's the visibility within the process? If there is a need for visibility. If I need to route work, Is it going to multiple groups in parallel? Can they see what each other is doing? And is there any accountability? Like, if I have a process that is end user facing and they need to get something delivered in a timely fashion, how do I know when there's a holdup, and can that holdup be identified and someone held accountable if there is a customer sat issue? Which goes back to the transparency, letting the users know where work is at any point in time. The next piece is something that we've been doing a lot more of the past couple years is along the lines of empathy designing when we're working with end users. Instead of the developers coming up with the intake forms and the ways of interacting with the users, try to bring the users in during the development cycle so that you can have an empathetic design to the form that matches the way they think when they're looking at their data. Um, I'm sure you've been through forms before in your own personal life where you have to jump back and forth across different sections because it's not laid out in the way that your mind is thinking about how the process should be handled. Um, and we've had some great success with customers bringing in our interface design team and sitting with the actual operators of the ones that work on the forms or submit the forms or process the data on the back end and redesigning the flow of the fields, the views, and the forms and the passing of the data so that it matches up with the basically their click-through process and allowing them to become more efficient throughout their day.
It's a great point, Angelo, because so many times we have customers coming with thinking just about transforming a PDF document and say, hey, this is the form that we've been using for 10, 20 years. This is an official form. Okay, can we just intake that form the same way that we've been doing forever? But when we talk to users, they found using this form very tedious, right? And so one thing that we're trying to do as well is speed up and accelerate the time that it takes to fill that form as much as possible. So by talking with the users, engaging them as early as possible, finding the ways that different people, different personas in the organizations are going to need to fill that form differently, and what kind of data we can bring, and maybe not just from ServiceNow, but as we talked about, using the platform of platform, integrating with other systems of record to actually populate as much data as possible to really speed up that form completion.
Great, thanks, Mark. And that idea you talk about integrating with third systems, that can get down to like the field population area or concept of if I want to have this request go through successfully the first time, is there a way that I can integrate with some of those record sources and do queries and pull back and auto-populate fields so that I'm not doing free text where I now have to have someone on the back end who needs to interpret what that user typed in. Um, if that's a reference field to another system that's a system of record, we already know what it's supposed to look like. And we can start building our processes around clean data right from the start for as many fields as we can accommodate. Now, even though we make a great interface for the end user to get data into us, it doesn't mean we have a very good process on the back end to manage it. I worked with one customer several years ago about the intake process of assets as they came into the organization. And it was a 12 form process for an asset to be brought into the loading dock, put into a stock room, imaged, deployed to an end user, accounted for, imaged, the entire process. And as they started mapping out how is that process flow working, they were able to eliminate 6 of the 12 different steps and forms that were part of it. One of them being just the mere fact that someone had to grab a paper copy of a form and stick it back in a archive folder, of which no one even knew why they were even doing it anymore. Asked all the current employees, and they're like, "Well, that's just the way we've always done it," and there was no further thought to it. So we were able to allow them to re-engage themselves in their own process. And while they were modernizing the user experience, also modernize how they did the back end process. That's a chance for gaining efficiencies, gaining accountability. Again, I like to bring up transparency and accountability a lot because that is where the end user is going to get the best improvement of their experience. If there's transparency in a process, if you think about shipping with Amazon or FedEx, and you can go through and you can see exactly where that package is at any point in time, you're not calling someone asking for a status update, and you're having a more satisfactory experience because you feel like you are sharing in the experience of getting your process fulfilled. You can see it as it's passing through the various checkpoints. If you make it so that part of your delivery workflow has checkpoints in it that can be exposed to the end users, then they can see like, oh yes, this really is making it through the process. I see where it's at, and I do not need to make an extra call or drop an extra email into the support guys to find out where is it sitting at. So these are several of the steps that you should really be thinking about before you even get to building out an application. And everybody likes to jump in and start making forms and creating workflows and getting their hands dirty right off the get-go. But if you spend some time in the front thinking about these four areas, then that's going to definitely help you get a better product built. And in the end, that's going to have a better user experience and hopefully an improved efficiency on the back end. Then finally, when we get to build it, uh, one of the powers of ServiceNow is that ability for the low code, no code experience when you are building this, so that you do not have to have IT being the entire process owner to this. The IT group can just provide platform oversight and guidance and some guide rails for how to design a proper app so that the line of business can be the ones that help engage IT to make sure that the app is being built correctly. So if I'm working with a group that needs to do real estate request management, they know the vernacular, they know the types of data that need to be collected. They should be the ones that are helping to build the forms. They should know that as I'm mentally thinking through, okay, here's my location. The next piece I'm going to need is possibly the plot identifier. From there, I'm probably going to be on that one form within the county records, which is also going to have the acreage. So I can start collecting data while I'm already seeing it in another place. So they're going to be the ones that know when data is going to be available to a fulfiller or an end user to process or submit a request. So you definitely want to have the owners of the data, the owners of the process, the owners of where the request is made being part of the development process. And as we mentioned earlier, the end user should definitely be brought in as early as possible to validate that you're giving them an experience or a form that meets their expectations of an easy to use process. And lastly comes to that governance. Once something like this goes out, ServiceNow requests tend to start flowing in rather rapidly to the IT group. It is a little bit of an addictive platform once you start doing custom apps. So the IT group does need to be prepared ahead of time to do some demand management. If you release a successful new app and the end users love it and they start talking about, wow, you transformed the way I ask for property destruction or property acquisition, and I really wish you could do this for my fleet management as well. Well, the fleet management guys see it and they start using it and make an app. Well, now you're going to have the guys that do signage on the hallway saying, wow, is there an easier way for us to take in signed demands, print them, and have facilities go out and post them? And you're going to have that snowball effect of new application requests. So you're going to have a good demand management process in place to start understanding how to vet, weigh the risk versus benefit versus time constraints of your internal teams to be able to deliver some of these applications. And that is it for this portion of the slide deck. Not seeing anything in chat, so again, feel free to throw in questions if you have any through that portion. But we're going to go ahead and dive in right now. Always a fun part first, so we'll see what the end users would experience. So this is our pretty standard portal. So what I wanted to do was come up with something that can be stood up very quickly with basic out-of-the-box functionality, very low code to no code. I would say 98% of this was all done with no code because I do not know how to write good code and do not particularly care to write code whatsoever. So once we get into the back end of it, you'll see how the forms and how the different visualizations were accomplished.
And one key point here is the power of the service catalog and unified portal of ServiceNow. That's something that I've been working of 20 years in business process management to improve business processes. And one thing that all of the major providers and solutions lack is really this unified way of finding processes. Because so many times I've had customers improve business processes, but users could not find them. They didn't know that they missed the email. They didn't know that it existed, that there was a new version available. But by just going into the service portal here and any workflow that you built inside ServiceNow can be exposed into the ServiceNow portal automatically to make it really easy for users to find.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. And kind of piling onto that, also the idea of a unified portal that is role aware. So I'm actually logged in as a system administrator, so he has some pretty high level access. So he can actually do approvals right through this area. Um, I brought in a little piece from our share site, so you can have a tweet portal. Our customers do share widgets back and forth with each other as they do design on service portals. This isn't even something ServiceNow takes about 5 minutes to go out to the developer site, sort through the share site, and pull down different pieces that you can bring in. But while I'm looking at my real estate requests, I can also see my IT incidents as well, or any other applications that might be published and available to me. At a top level view, what I'm offering to the end user is the ability first to do any type of search across the entire platform. That's going to be user criteria enabled. So if I am a real estate processor and I also am an IT user, I'm going to be able to get matches across anything that I'm capable of viewing within ServiceNow across any type of application. A catalog approach to offering up what are the services that I provide. This is where we'll show you a little bit the interface for how someone would make an actual request into the team. A knowledge base to help them out. So in order to help deflect some cases that might come into your real estate request team, possibly put some articles out there on what are the different sources of data that you may need in order to populate the form. What are some of the most frequently asked questions about submitting the form and tracking the progress? Those articles would then also be available during the search area. So if I'm looking up, if I could spell building correctly, we could potentially have some articles come up. And notice I'm employee, so I could have some tuition items. I might have some IT items, but I could also have real estate based items about, in this case, how do I get a particular contractor to work on an item. And then finally, just give them the way to ask for help. So maybe they do run into a roadblock with filling out the form. The knowledge base wasn't able to help them. You still want them to be able to ask a question via this or via an agent chat option, however you want to expose your service team out to the end users that are fulfilling the requests or making the requests. And yes, it is role aware, and Active Directory is one of the options to prevent that 13. Thank you for the question. We do tend, I cover US government, and one of the most common setups is to have this set up with SSO. So we do typically see ADFS as the authentication mechanism, and then an LDAP sync down so that the directory is automatically populated in ServiceNow with your AD groups, your group memberships, your managers. So when you start building out your approvals, you can start using the dot methodology of saying, I want to do user ID dot manager so that I can automatically look up who the manager is and not have it hard coded to like a user ID group or hard coded to a person or something like that. I want to avoid hard coding as much as possible when you're making good quality applications. No, you're very welcome. So one of the things within a catalog, you may want to have different categories available to them. My claims and permits are just some placeholders to kind of show what a catalog could look like. If I go in there, there is a claim request, but there's no form behind it. But if I were to go in and to make a request, I could have a little picture tile here if I was feeling imaginative, but I was not at the time. But I took the paper form. So if we go back to PowerPoint here for a second, I'll just drag it up here so you can kind of see the form. So this is what we were working with. And if you think about collecting in site names, street addresses, acreage, a lot of check boxes. One of these things was complete different sections based off of criteria that you're working on. Uh, what I was hoping to provide is more of that TurboTax type approach to where some information gets auto-populated, some information is only presented to you at the time that you need it. So I will go ahead and bring in my scripting disclaimer at this point. What I'm about to show is the one piece of code that I did have to write. Everything else was just out of the box GUI-based form design. So when I fill in my requester here, it does automatically populate with who I'm logged in as first, although I did leave it as a freehand field where I could type in. But if I pick that, it does go back to the directory and it pulls up my phone number automatically as an example of a way to auto-populate a different field on the form than the one that you're working on. All the rest of the information in here, it was all just done through the GUI design that you'll see in a little bit. But if I were to go through down here, there's a site name, land acreage. So a little more modern feel and interface than the previous form that you saw. And then this was the big piece that I think adds on a better user experience is when we get to that type of action section to where it was check here if you need to complete A and D or A and C or any combination of those. I set up each of these different sections as a variable set that can be enabled or disabled on the form based off of the checkboxes. So if I were to click this first one, it's now going to show only section A and D to me, greatly simplifying the form and what's shown to me as an end user. Or if I only need to fill in B and D, that would be that case. The ability to add attachments, drag and drop attachments in here. If you are customers on federal right now with the release of Paris and Quebec, you have the ability to move all this into mobile as well. So if you wanted to do that upload, it could just be using your mobile camera to start adding pictures to our forms now. But this was the new form experience that I wanted to present and let you kind of see how can I take something that is a more traditional PDF or SF form or DD form based on where in the government you might be and transform that into a modern look and feel. Um, we also have partners that can take your forms and automatically create one of these catalog items directly from your form so you can have an easy button experience. Our HR application also has that capability to where if you have HR forms, it can automatically ingest them and help you create forms within the platform based off of your documents. So there's lots of different tools and partners out there that can help with this step if you didn't want to take it on yourself. I'm going back to the main page. I've already got some put in, so I don't have to bore you of going through all the different required fields. And if I pull up request 17 here, I see I already have a request. I've submitted in pictures. The requester started interfacing with the approver on the back end who does believe it's a nice day and will not be working on your approval today. And that information is able to be seen by the end user. So this would be the end user experience to be able to chat back and forth and add additional information. So I did work with Mark and our App Engine team to go ahead and get this process flow header put up here because I did want to have the end user's process flow look exactly like what my backend guys are seeing. So when my backend guy pulls up and looks at this particular process, this is our out-of-the-box process flow designer that you see on one of our fulfiller type forms. So I did just want to replicate that and have it also look the same for the end user as well. But you can see this here is the same flow of data that the user is seeing back and forth. Oh, there we go. Now I can scroll. To do screen realty utilization, I did replicate the form information within tabs of my fulfiller form. So he is also going to have a common dialogue experience with the end user. So if the user is calling in and saying, yeah, I'm sitting here working on section B and I'm trying to figure out what this means, I would like the person on our back end to be able to just quickly jump to what is the end user seeing on section B and have that same information being transparent and visible to me so we can have that common dialogue going. I've run into so many cases to where an end user is trying to converse with someone on the back end and they just aren't speaking the right language to each other, and I have to act as a translator to get our tech support and our end user to actually ask each other a question that they can both understand. So if you're filling out your back end and creating the form for the people that are fulfilling the data request of your end users, you want to have the terminology linked up so that they can communicate efficiently together. Now we're going to quickly jump into the studio. I don't want to spend a lot of time in here because this is the older design, but I know not everybody can quickly jump onto Paris and Quebec and get to play with all the new toys. So this is the traditional studio. And what I wanted to show while I was in here was the process. I just made a record producer into a custom table that was made for this particular application. And then I use those variable sets. So this is a little trick that I learned in order to make it easier to take data on and off your form easily and quickly with just a checkbox. So each one of these different variable sets are bundled together so that I can then reuse that set as a criteria and a policy later on. So now I can say, I want to hide all of those sections right off the get-go. A, B, C, and D are all hidden if there's no type of action selected. So when I'm back on my form, and I'm looking at my request, there's nothing checked, so all those variable sets are hidden right off the get-go. When I go to the next policy, if these types of actions are set, then yes, I do want to show section A. So that's as complex as it was to build the variable sets and then start using them in these drag and drop type and basically filter based criteria settings for me to design a form that's going to be reactive for end users to work with.
What's pretty cool is that you just have to use the condition builder, defining the attributes that you want to choose to form your criteria to make different fields appear or disappear in the form in order to make the user experience better.
Yes, definitely. The variable sets were the key to it. I tried to do this one time about 4 years ago before I learned about variable sets. And I was just writing dozens and dozens of these UI policies trying to manage what was on and off the form. And it was just getting to be very hard to do governance on how the form reacted and behaved whenever I made a change. So this made a good modular approach that was much easier to manage. On the back end, I also then did modular flow designs as well too. So across that particular form, I created several different flows for each of the different tasks that I wanted to perform instead of trying to create one large workflow. So in this case, when it's created, it's going to look for the acquisition types that I'm experiencing. I only have one type of approver, but in real world, I would probably route each of these to a different group depending on the type of request that's being made.
And just for people that are not familiar with what Angelo is showing here, this is the flow designer inside ServiceNow. So it's really this reimagined way of allowing people to author business processes using natural language. You can see that there is basically almost nothing to learn. It's very intuitive. You have a set of actions that are triggered by conditions at the top, and you can connect with the integration hub to reuse the hundreds of connections to third-party systems. So anyone can read this flow and understand what is the logic, what are the actions that are being performed at different stages of the process. And that makes it really a different type of environment rather than having a more complex solution where people need to understand, okay, what kind of shape do I need to use? What's being done behind the scene? Everything is there exposed directly in English.
Yeah, the flow designer has been a great improvement over the old workflow designer. When I first started here, we did not have flow designer, and using workflow is definitely a little more challenging. There was some scripting that you'd have to do to get different components to work to get together. Flow designer has been a great help for me. Um, so while we're in here, I also do want to do a quick pitch for our Now Learning site. It is amazing. We have about 300 or so different on-demand courses. Almost all of them are free. There is also the ability to find live courses and schedule live courses on here if you prefer to have a virtual class to where you do have a live instructor helping you through. But these are great classes with hands-on labs. They'll spin up instances and walk you through all kinds of different training scenarios. Um, and I believe Mark will be talking about the developer side as well. Any point in time, you can get a free instance, and then you can walk through the learning and the training around how to develop your own apps. And then that share site that I talked about, where there is just loads of data that's been shared across customers and by our own internal developers that you can work and download and play with on your own instances. I
Yep.
believe now we can pass back on over to Mark for a quick review of what's coming.
Yeah.
If I can stop sharing. Oh, you already took it from me. There we go.
Yeah. You can see my screen.
I can.
Excellent. Yeah, one thing that I want to talk about is, okay, we had, I think, shared, especially Angelo, a lot of great practices, great advice and suggestion on how to look at an existing process and how to get started and look at it differently in a way to change it. Because if you keep the same lens, you're just going to end up with the same process. So what we want to suggest is really a couple of next steps. One is what Angelo just showed is the standard studio for creating application. It was great, but now we have a new version that's even better, moved to a complete different level. We have reimagined and provided an environment which really can help people from any type of skill set level to build applications quickly, and really can be mission critical, such as emergency alerts applications. And you can start very quickly at the top to create tables, user experience, automation flows, and also start from existing templates. We are providing 5 from the get-go, available now, from document approval template to emergency, team contact, performance review, time off, and even registering templates. And we're going to add more in the next month. And so what we want to do is really, if you want to start reducing frictions in your agency, register today for the webinar on March 23rd. So go to this URL here, create apps fast _March_23rd. And you will be presented with how you get started with App Engine Studio, what it can do for you. And not only that, but like Angelo said, we also have a new training environment that is dedicated to App Engine Studio, just released this week, developer.servicenow.com/builder. It's really to allow anybody to get started really quick on the ServiceNow platform with App Engine. So it's completely free. You will, upon registering on the ServiceNow website, you will be given your own personal developer instance. And that instance will never expire. It's not a trial like other solutions. As long as you use it every 10 days, at least, this instance will never die. Right? So you can also get access to training. And if you have questions, then we are also available at those addresses, and we'll be glad to answer any type of question right now, or take our email and send us any question anytime. With this, feel free to chime in, open your mic, unmute yourself, ask any question, or contact us via email.
So there was a question on HR inside the chat, and yeah, the HR application is built directly on the platform. Awesome application. I do have some of my customers using it today. Did you have any specific questions about the particular app?
No, actually, this is Michael Irvin, Mervin 13. And no, actually, my organization had been looking at that. We actually brought in-house, I think it might be related to facilities, but we're thinking about using that. But I have another group in HR that have been looking at the services delivery platform. So I was just trying to get some information on that.
Yeah, excellent. So the HR application is built on a ServiceNow platform, and we'll be able to use within the HRSD application all the capabilities, not only the capabilities of HRSD, but if you have any need to go beyond what HRSD does, you have the ability to leverage the App Engine together with HRSD to build your own custom workflows.
Yeah, that sounds great too. And also when you were talking about the connectors that you have, maybe you wouldn't have the connectors I would need, but I like that whole concept, that whole idea. Hey, I do have my email address attached to my username. I don't know if that's available to you guys, but if someone could contact me, I would really like that.
Yeah, if you probably left your email address to register, and so someone will contact you. And one thing that we are eager to know is, what kind of connectors you are looking for, you need in your agency, and we'll tell you if we have them, if we don't, how we can make this happen for your own organization.
That's absolutely wonderful. Okay, all right. I can leave my email address in the chat, or do you guys have it?
Leave it here just in case, and if you tell us what's your agency, we can contact directly the team that is responsible for helping your account.
Oh, you'll see what agency in my address.
Yeah, excellent. This is everybody's favorite agency, I guess.
Okay.
So any workflow that I can help you with to reduce my taxes, I will do freely.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
No, I was just joking as we end this meeting, just to say that any type of workflow that you need help with, that I can help you reduce my taxes, I will do graciously.
Okay. All right. Hey, guys, thanks for the presentation.
Hey, thank you very much for attending, everybody. And have a great weekend.